We are live. Evidently, the Open does not play, which is supposed to. It's Jim, it's Matt. It is Thursday, and Matthew, we promised everybody yesterday that we would talk Portal today, and there's a lot of kids out there with no place to go.
Yeah, we've discussed this before. It didn't really have. I think you have more concrete numbers now, but just really talked about the downside to the portal that people tend to forget about, and
Mhm.
that's the fact that not everybody finds a home. That this is very much a system that if you get bad advice, you can find yourself in a bad situation, even a situation where potentially you aren't playing the sport that you at one time were.
Mhm. At this point, I just checked, and here's 24/7 rivals and on three. According to 24/7, 3,200 FBS scholarship players entered the portal during the winter cycle. At the moment, and that's of 3:06 Eastern time on Thursday. And by the way, the tomorrow at midnight is the absolute last time you can sign to be to be eligible for the spring. There's 1,400 players according to 24/7. Rivals and on three have it at 1,800. So
Hmm.
somewhere between 1,500 and 1,800 kids are not in a program at this point.
Yeah, and so you talked about that window that opens up.
Mhm.
It's a 1 week window in the middle of January, or
Right.
I think it's a 10-day window, not a 1 week
10
window.
days. Yeah.
Yeah, 10-day window opens up for everybody in January. Obviously, in the middle of the college football playoff, it was between that quarterfinal round and that semifinal round
Hmm.
for a lot of those guys. Because you saw some guys on Ole Miss, you saw some guys on Miami,
Hmm.
um, Oregon. Obviously, there was a big storyline about their backfield and how one of the guys that was playing for them in that Peach Bowl was
Hmm.
actually in the portal at the time of him playing, but
Right.
Oregon needed the depth and allowed him to play in that Peach Bowl for them. Um, but then there's a secondary window that opens up if a head coach leaves or gets fired from their position.
Right.
Then a window opens up for the players on that roster, um, and then the portal also opens up at what is defined as the end of your season. So the portal reopened for the guys on Miami and Indiana,
Right.
I think 10 days after that championship game.
Hmm.
And what's important to know about the windows is the fact that's when you are able to enter your name into the portal. It's your defined period of when you're supposed to be able to enter your name in the portal. You do not have to be signed to a destination by the conclusion of these windows. It's just you have to have your name in there if you're eligible to move schools. Obviously, there's schedule stuff that goes on, like in terms of the schedule of schools, when they accept enrollment, when they don't accept enrollment,
Hmm.
uh, things such as that. But the window is, and in all honesty, the way that things have been going over the past couple of years, I don't think it's even a definite window. Like I think under the right legal circumstances that you probably could sue the NCAA and enter the portal when you so chose. I don't know that to be a fact. We haven't seen it happen.
Right.
Somebody suing for the ability to enter the transfer portal yet. I think yet is probably a key factor in that because I think it's something that may come down the line eventually. But yeah, as of right now, those guys don't have a home. They're not guaranteed a home, and they were most likely entering the portal under some advice that was given to them that they would have a home to go to, once they entered the portal. I don't think this was necessarily well, sometimes it is, I'm gonna go test the waters, see what's out there.
Right.
Then, if you go test the waters, you don't like how cold they are, you want to go back
Right.
where you were. Sometimes they filled your spot. Um, in the time that you've been in the portal. And so going back is no longer an option. If the options out there aren't suitable for you, then you're SOL.
Yeah. Speaking to some coaches and some ADs on via emails and text, basically, there are kids, players, who choose to go to their coaches and say, "Look, I'd like to enter the portal, um, but um, I might, I'd be willing to come back if, you know, if the circumstances are right." Now that's a negotiating tactic.
Hmm.
Whether or not you can, if you're a decent enough player, maybe the coach gives you that discretion. If, on the other hand, you're not, um, they certainly don't have to honor your scholarship, and they certainly don't have to bring you back. Now, uh, an agent broke down for me. These are the four, you know, remaining types of players that are going to be in the portal.
Hmm.
Most of them are depth players seeking
Yep.
larger roles. Okay, so last year they got, they got time. They played on the team, but they didn't actually start. So they figure, wait a minute, I've got talent. I can go someplace else and I can start. Okay, so that makes sense, right?
Hmm.
Former starters looking for fresh opportunities. Okay, I don't know. We talked yesterday about the transfer from Duke to Miami. Um, and those types of guys.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know that those are former stars looking for fresh opportunities. I think that really boils down to players just seeking the cash
Hmm.
to for the best deal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's guised as something being former starters looking for fresh opportunities. Okay,
Well, I
it's a very benign way of putting it, but at the end of the day, these are basically mercenaries.
Yeah. Well, you can also split that category into two groups.
Hmm.
The starters that maybe weren't playing well
Yeah.
and have young players coming up behind them, and their starting
Hmm.
spot is not guaranteed, and they want to go somewhere where they believe it is guaranteed,
Hmm.
looking for a fresh opportunity. I think there's that. And then I think you also have on the other side the mercenary aspect of these guys were some of the best at their position
Hmm.
in the country, and there are people that are willing to pay for them being the best in the country at their position.
Okay, let me give you an illustration, and let me see if you agree.
Hmm.
Former starters looking for fresh opportunities. That could have been last year. It could have been Carson Beck.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
He
I mean,
wasn't
there's
a
guys.
mercenary. He really. I mean, he was hurt when
Yeah,
he went to
yeah,
Miami.
absolutely. I mean, there was a cornerback for the University of Georgia. His name's Daniel Harris. He entered the portal this offseason. He
Hmm.
came in, projected starter for Georgia. I think he started a couple games for Georgia. He ended up entering the portal because throughout the season he got played over. Like he was a
Hmm.
former starter, but his play or the play of the guys behind him dictated that he was no longer going to be on the field because he wasn't the
Right,
best player at the position. And now he was in the portal. He's since committed to Cal.
right. There's also graduate transfers with immediate eligibility. That's a little. That actually could also have been Carson Beck because he had
Hmm.
already graduated, but he had eligibility left.
Yep.
Uh, that's been someplace where we've seen a number of quarterbacks is the
Yeah.
graduate transfer with the immediate eligibility.
Hmm. Yeah,
I'm
and
trying
that's
to
what.
remember that. What was that kid's name that at USC that left USC because he knew that Lincoln was bringing in, um, Caleb Williams?
That would be Jackson Dart.
Was Jackson Dart? Was it Jackson Dart?
Hmm. Yep.
Because there was a kid who was at USC who ended up playing at Pitt and at BYU. So they played USC, Pitt, and BYU, and I can't remember the kid's name. Um,
Was it? No, it wasn't Miller Moss.
yeah, it wasn't Miller Moss, no, but Miller Moss played at three schools too.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
It
no, I
doesn't
don't
matter.
know.
The point being that the graduate transfers are kids who may have played for as many as two or three schools before they get to the next school.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are guys like, and I've used the case before, but TJ Finley is a guy
Hmm.
who's been spot to spot. I think he's on like his seventh school in 7 years or something like
Wow.
that. And he's, I mean, at this point, he's got to be a graduate guy.
Hmm.
Um, other than the fact that you're probably looking at some medical red shirts and things such as that. Obviously, a COVID year in there that give him the eligibility, but you would have to assume that he's under some graduate pretenses as well. But there's also those guys that are just using the portal to almost like it seems almost like a way of prolonging their career, even though they
Yeah.
know it's not headed for the next level.
Yeah. The other thing that 7 years, I mean, he could be graduating as a doctor,
Hmm.
depending on where he went. The final role of this, or at least the final role given to me, was underclassmen who entered late in the cycle.
Hmm.
So those are the kids that, you know, let's say some guys take the GED test to get the graduation from the high school situation. They then qualify through, testing to get into a college. Um, Maybe it's a junior college to start with, and so they're 17 years old waiting to get into the portal from that standpoint. So there are kids in that 17 to 18 age range level. Most of the time, they have graduated from high school either through an accelerated program of some sort or a GED program of some sort, so
Hmm.
that they can enter into a college environment, with the necessary requirements.
Yeah, and this may or may not fall under that same category, but it's interesting to see some of the high schoolers that sign to a place, and then I feel like it's not something that's all that common right now. It's
Mhm.
more rare in terms of the cases that it happens, but there are freshmen who sign at one institution in December, and then they'll turn around in January and then enter their name into the transfer portal after only being on campus for about a month.
Mhm.
Uh, or really only being signed. They may not even be on campus yet, but they've either been signed or on campus at an institution for a month. I think the most famous case of it is probably the former five-star quarterback, now Cal quarterback, Jaron Kiawe Sakapotele, who,
Easy for you to say.
yeah, who ended up, he was committed to Cal for a long time. He signed at Oregon. He went up to Oregon. He was on campus at Oregon during the Rose Bowl practices for Ohio State last year. And once the portal came open, he decided that he didn't want to be at Oregon anymore, and he transferred to Cal. Um, that's one of the case, I think the most popular case of that happening, to my knowledge. But it does happen in some rare cases.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, um, this all boils down to really doing, if you're a player, really doing your homework, okay? And that requires something that athletes, and let's be honest, in many regards, everybody does, right? You want to believe you can play.
Hmm.
You want to believe that, okay, I'm not starting. I'm impatient. I mean, a number of these kids were stars at their high school level, right?
Hmm.
That doesn't mean maybe they weren't the 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, but they were stars at their high school. They get on campus, they're there, they're not playing, they're frustrated, and they just don't have the patience to wait it out.
Hmm.
So they enter the transfer portal. If coaches don't know, and believe me, the now, if you look at if you look at the let's go 5 years ago, right? 5 years ago, they were starting to look at the possibility of full time, what in essence would be a scouting group, right?
Hmm.
At colleges, where you would hire guys who would literally not show up on the football field. They were spending all their time traveling, looking at kids as to and evaluating,
Hmm.
almost like pro scouts do,
Yeah.
right? And so all of a sudden, in the past 5 years, look at what Bill, what the University of Florida, Florida State, Miami, they've all done is they've all gotten to this routine now where you've got 10, 15 guys who are in charge of doing nothing but looking at players who are presently playing on football teams and kids who are in high school
Mm-hmm.
with the idea of if we want a guy. I mean, I'll give you an example, and that is there was a four-star quarterback at Mississippi State. He wasn't getting his, he wasn't getting his the reps that he felt he deserved. Couldn't latch on with another Power Four, and he ends up being headed to USF
Mm-hmm.
because he had nowhere. I'm not going to say he had nowhere else to go, but he certainly was sold, on going to South Florida. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
those are stories that happen oftentimes. Then there's the situations where you think you're good and you don't go anywhere because coaches have coaches are at this point in a position, and I'm talking about the Power Four, especially the Power Four major ones. We talked about yesterday. Kirby's finished on the 16th of January. There's
Mm-hmm.
nobody out there that Kirby didn't get that's in the portal. I'm
Correct.
assuming.
Yes.
Okay. And that's the same for Kalen DeBoer, and that's the same for, the guys at Ohio State and Michigan and all those guys. They
Yeah.
get who they want, and that's it. So
Yeah.
now the guys who are in the portal where are they going to go? I mean, you're not going to go to a program that is going to go and automatically that you're going to win. But if you're lucky, in the next less than 24 hours, you're going to find a spot at least where you can play.
Yeah. Yeah. And the number of spots that are available, I feel like it's typically misunderstood by players when they enter the portal. It like the portal on the outside and this thing that you're really sold on is essentially it's almost like the original American dream, right? You're sold on this land of freedom and opportunity where you can go wherever and play whenever and make as much money as you want to. When in reality, it tends to be a lot darker on the other side, and there's a lot of things that these kids get wrong, like they don't factor in. And to be honest with you, it's hard to blame them because some of these guys are 17, 18, 19 years old, depending on when they're entering the portal,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been told that they should enter the portal by somebody that they trust.
Mm-hmm.
It it really boils down to emotions and who do you trust in terms of how this portal goes. Do you trust your coaching staff that you're committing to, or do you trust your representation, whoever that may be?
Right.
You trust this family member who said he's had a coach reach out to him and is offering you the world,
Mm-hmm.
because that is the way. Like there's ways that these programs go about like working around, and they don't have direct contact with this player, but there's ways of getting these offers in front of these players, and that's typically through secondary sources, whether it be high school coaches, uncles, aunts, some
Mm-hmm.
family member of some sort, where you kind of skirt that direct contact line. And sometimes they'll just flat out lie to you. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
coaching staffs lie to you. Sometimes, to be honest with you, you don't have the mental or emotional makeup to be on these teams and be ready for what the portal is, or maybe the place that you're committing to as well. Like they talk about certain programs where you have to have like a certain mental makeup in order to survive there. And sometimes, maybe you overvalue or over think a little bit highly of yourself, and in reality you don't fit the mold that they're looking for, that you wanted it to be in terms of the environment. um,
Yeah.
so many
No.
factors go into this poor decision making and lead you to now in a place where you have no rules and regulation, and it allows you to freely move from college to college. You have that option if you so choose, and that's why there are evaluators in the NFL that look at the number of stops you've made in the transfer portal as something that could be a red flag on the next level in terms of your
Mm-hmm.
makeup as a player. And I think it's fair because sometimes it's not always you looking for another opportunity or a better opportunity. It's looking for you to line your pockets or somebody else to line your pockets as well.
Yeah, I can give you a personal experience in a situation where I have a I had a nephew who played high school ball in Virginia.
Hmm.
Was very talented with the team. Was the star of the team, and had a couple of D2 scholarship offers. And he was like, he said, I believe I can play in the SEC. And I said, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Hmm.
you look really good against the competition you're playing against, but is that competition on the same level as some of these teams, the kids that play in the SEC? So, you know, I was fortunate enough to have a friend who was a coach in an SEC school. And I said, look, do me a favor, try him out.
Hmm.
I'm not saying give him anything. I'm just asking you if you can come down after practice and just you can evaluate.
Yeah.
He said, sure. Comes down, plays, he gives him, goes through the whole thing with him. Comes to me afterwards and says, there's no way this kid plays in the SEC.
Hmm.
He said, there's no way this kid plays in the ACC, the Big 12. He's a D2 kid with potential.
Hmm.
And so, I was fortunate to have that evaluation from a guy who had no interest in, I suppose if he had knocked his socks off, he might have offered him a scholarship, but he certainly was. That was not the reason. The reason was the evaluation.
Yeah.
And sometimes, as I said, sometimes you can be the best player on your team in a league that is not good.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
And
that's a problem.
it's something that some of these schools they tend to overlook you. Sometimes the recruiting departments overlook you if you're in some of those lower divisions of high school, the 1A,
Mhm,
2A. Really, sometimes regardless of state, like I know
mhm,
Georgia's a little bit of an exception because they had their current quarterback right now, Gunnar Stockton, came from a 2A high school in Raven
mhm,
County. I believe it's 2A. Um, it's either 2A or 1A, one of the lowest divisions of Georgia high school football.
mhm,
And so sometimes like guys can get looked over. I know that Lad McConkey, another Georgia guy, he
mhm,
was he was from a lower division in Tennessee. But it's on these recruiting staffs to go out and find these guys, and
mhm,
it's the reason why you have a lot of these lower, like the group of five schools that have these stars that just like pop, is because
mhm,
guys were good enough. They just got looked over throughout the recruiting process. And the recruiting process itself is skewed as well. Like aside from the fact that you're now competing with these guys in the portal in terms
mhm,
of where you're going and how limited the spots are,
mhm,
is you also have something where if you're a guy who say you are talented enough to play in the Big Ten and the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12, that if you didn't go to those camps and you didn't go to the right high school, then
mhm.
guess what? You're not going to get those offers regardless of whether or not you're talented enough for it.
Well, you also brought up a very good point, and that is coaches, all of the major coaches, and we can certainly put Kirby in this category. They know probably, I'm going to say 20, 25 high school coaches that are the elite high schools in the South.
Hmm.
And they know that they pick up the phone, they call, hey, Matt, I heard about so and so, Kenny Jones. He's a hell of a player, from what I understand. What can you tell me about him?
Hmm.
And the guy's a friend of of Kirby's. He's going to say, Kirby, I can tell you right now, you'd be lucky to have him.
Hmm.
Or Kirby, I'll tell you what, I I think he really wants to go to Alabama. I don't think I don't think it's going to be worth your time even trying, but you can. Or even the third situation, which is my personal evaluation, is he's not going to be fitting it. He won't fit Georgia. He probably is going to end up as a guy at either a lower level Power Four or a higher level G5.
Yeah.
So they get that intel directly from the guys who coach them.
Yeah. And I will add this. There's a new point that you can add to that information
Mm-hmm.
is that coach could be like, look, he's got I don't know if it's on paper or via verbal contract, but he's got an offer for X amount of dollars from this school right
Mhm.
now. Can you match that? Because if you
Right,
can't, then it's a non-starter.
right,
Some kids that matters. Like if they can't match the number, then it's a non-starter for
mhm,
whatever school it's calling.
right. And at the other end of the coin is, let's say the high school coach is being paid by, we'll say, Nike. All right, he's a Nike guy, but the college coach is a Nike guy. They know each other from that standpoint. So there's all kinds of, you know back channels that get
Mhm.
you the players you want.
Yeah.
Out in Southern California, we've discussed it before. Mater Day, which is a private school out there in California. It's a D. It's not a five. It's not a 5A school. It's a 3A school. So
Mhm.
that means the competition is a little less, but 3A schools in California, 3A schools in Georgia, 3A schools in Florida, in Texas are 1A schools, or 5A schools in, you know, in Iowa or New Jersey or some of these other places.
Yeah.
So you have to understand. I remember the uh, the Florida 3A championship game back in the day. The two quarterbacks in the final, one was Chris Collingsworth and the other was Doug Flutie.
Hmm.
They played each other.
Yeah.
Titusville Astronaut was Chris's school, and Melbourne was Doug Flutie's school.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
Chris's dad was um, an engineer for NASA, and Doug's father, because they had relocated down from the Boston area, was a guy who worked in the space industry as well. So they were both at the same place at the same time. Doug decided to go back north because he liked, he was recruited by Miami and a bunch of other schools, but he wanted to play back in Boston, where basically that was his home. And Chris went to the University of Florida.
Hmm.
So you can find the kids at that level. It's just that are they doing the due diligence there? So now let's look at what these kids can do. All right, what comes next? Um, right now, they're finalizing the rosters. Okay, that's something that I am absolutely certain that if you go to the top level shelf schools in the SEC, the ACE, in the Big Ten, and ACC, and Big 12, they want that roster as tight now as they possibly can.
Yeah.
Okay, they want to go into spring practice with the best players they can get their hands on.
Yep.
So that means that if these kids that do not make it, they don't get a bite at the apple because there's a log jam here. They're not going to be in school at the time they need to be in school to do the spring practice. Now, can
Hmm.
they enter in the summer? Yeah, they can,
Yeah.
but look how far they're going to be behind these other guys.
Yeah. Well, so they did, important note, they did do away with the second window,
Hmm.
the post spring practice window. So it's a one-time transfer window now in
Right.
January. But like we did talk about earlier, is there's most likely a legal way around the one-time window if somebody
Hmm.
really wants to enter the transfer portal. At that point, I think it would, it fully depends on how bad you want to. But there's most likely a legal avenue, but there is just a one-time transfer window, which was supposed to alleviate the threat of like the way you conduct your spring practices and the way you do stuff in spring practice. Like if a guy doesn't like the fact that he's
Hmm.
came in and he's the second string, then obviously he can, after that spring practice window, he can go enter the transfer portal if he so chooses. It took away that kind of aspect and gave you a much more, or the theory of the case is that it's supposed to give you a much clearer picture as to what
Hmm.
your roster will look like throughout the entirety of the season.
Yeah, the one thing that the reason I'm bringing up the spring thing, I'm sorry, the summer thing, is that it's not really a portal thing.
Hmm.
It's a you can enroll in the school at that time and
Yes.
you can be eligible as a walk-on, okay, and earn a scholarship.
Yeah.
So that gives you, if you feel that you have, or you've spoken to somebody, let's say somebody got hurt in the spring game, and you're out there, and maybe you fill a position that they can use. Maybe then you enter the summer, I'm not going to say portal, the summer semester, and you're enrolled in school. And once you're enrolled in school, then you're allowed to walk on and try. So they may end up that way. That's the longest of shots. Okay, that's basically, that's like in the NFL. That's like the end of training camp, and you got a guy who gets hurt, and so you go, out to an unsigned free agent, and I'm sorry, an undrafted kid, and bring him in because you need that depth. So that's a tough thing to do in that regard. A lot of these kids go to junior college after this because they
Hmm.
want to play, and at the same time, you know, you don't want to set out a year because that's
Yeah.
not going to help you at all.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the sitting out a year now is like more detrimental to you
Mm-hmm.
in terms of what you're doing, because the when you sit out a year, now you've recycled. So now you're still in the portal, but a
Mm-hmm.
new class of portal kids has entered. Everybody else has gotten a year older too, but they've been playing ball elsewhere. Whether that be high school or college somewhere, they've been
Mm-hmm.
playing ball when you've been sitting at home on the couch. That matters. That would impact your decision. Like if you sit out a year, why would I, as a school, and granted, this also depends on the size of school. But why would I, as a school, when I have the option to take another portal kid or a kid from
Mm-hmm.
high school, take this guy who's been sitting out? Like, there's no plus or upsides, because if you weren't wanted in the first cycle, what have you done in your time
Mm-hmm.
off that would make all of a sudden make you a worthy portal candidate? And so, in all odds, if you're not landing on that first try, the odds of you getting back into football or whatever sport you may have entered the portal in,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're slim to none.
Yeah. Um, let's take a turn here and go talk a little baseball. Um, in the past couple days, I've been really doing some serious research on what we got. 16 teams now that are not involved in a regional sports network now. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know about you, but right now, of those 16 teams that are not involved in the um, the FanDuel networks or others networks,
Hmm.
are we still? I mean, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, the Colorado Rockies, they were there last year, so you
Hmm.
know what's going to happen there. You know how that works.
Yeah.
If you are anybody else out there, other than those, um, other than those three or four, uh, you're sitting there going, okay, I'm interested in finding out just exactly what the heck is going on. Where am I going to watch the ball games? Well, MLB Productions has said that they're actually encouraging teams to come with them.
Hmm.
There are teams who are still, and I'm not quite sure why, but still evaluating whether or not it would make sense for them to begin their own regional network. Now, I would understand that if we were talking in August for 2027.
Hmm.
We're talking about February for 2026, and we're 11 days away from pitchers and catchers going to camp.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not exactly the time to start negotiating, figuring out your long term television strategy.
No.
Um, so I I spoke to Brian Lawler, 2 days ago. Brian is the president of Scripps Television, and they've
Hmm.
been very aggressive in working with Major League Baseball to do the over the air broadcast portions of it. What we're going to see is a hybrid. You're going to be able to see the games on over the air TV. Um, I believe in Atlanta, the old TBS, which was Channel 17, is now Peachtree Television.
That's correct. Yes.
I believe you're going to be watching the Braves on Peachtree Television for the over-the-air situation.
Yeah.
On cable,
Which I was just going to throw this in there.
go ahead.
When I was a kid, that was how you watched the Atlanta Braves. They were on
Yeah.
Peachtree TV every game was on Peachtree TV.
So there's Peachtree TV, which is free over-the-air broadcast, and of course it's on cable throughout the South. There's going to be where FanDuel was in the region. There will be, now this is if the Braves go with the MLB situation, which they have not yet committed to. I don't understand this. I do not, as someone who has spent my life in this business, the idea that you are not talking to Major League Baseball right now is insane. Well, we got a question here. Yeah, okay, you got a shout out, Marshall. Shout out to you. Thanks for dropping by. And if you have a question, let us know. It's just it boggles the mind. I mean, you're Major League Baseball is set up right now with Major League Baseball Productions to do every game. As a matter of fact, they would like that. They would like you to be under that umbrella because they feel that in the 2028 season, that's when the new contracts come out. That's when they can get everybody a chunk of cash. The MLB situation is they want an over-the-air broadcast outlet. They will use as I said, what was FanDuel's channel will then become Braves TV if they go that route. Braves TV will also be seen on, if you have DirecTV or satellite situation, that would be there because FanDuel was already there once, okay? And so that's where they'll play them. And then the fourth element to this is the streaming situation. That will be streaming Braves TV, which you can get through the MLB app, okay? So that's the four pillars of MLB TV. Right now, I can't even begin to imagine how crazy it's going to be the longer these teams wait to figure out what they want to do for television. Because if I'm a programmer, I gotta tear things down and put things up. This is not technically I can get a truck and broadcast crew to anywhere. Okay. That part I'm not worried about. It's where are my fans going to watch these games?
Yeah.
And why teams who are smart teams, I mean, the Atlanta Braves aren't dumb. Why you're not sitting down and figuring this out and getting it out as fast as possible, I don't understand.
Yeah, it seems like the delay is definitely an interesting choice because this isn't something that was new to any of these programs, to any of these franchises. Like they knew where their TV deals were headed. I think they had a very good idea. They've been out of them for a while now. And why would you not just take what the MLB is giving you here as really a stopgap option until you find a new TV deal?
Yeah, but you're not gonna. That's my point. The point is, if you go under the MLB window, and you're one of those 16 teams, okay, that goes under the MLB window, that means that the MLB is going to produce your shows, okay? You don't have to worry about the production costs anymore. That's done.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about you do not have to worry about the distribution anymore. That's taken care of for you. You do not have to worry about the advertising aspect on national advertising and on regional advertising. They're selling that for you. Now, what are you going to get in the way of money? It's not going to be anywhere near what you got. But then again, if you're not getting anything because the uh, FanDuel Network is out of business,
Hmm.
what are you getting? You're not getting a check. The Cardinals didn't get a check,
Yeah.
you know, and 13 NBA basketball teams didn't get checks.
Yeah.
So what are you waiting for? I mean, it just, to me, it it's borderline suicide from a standpoint of what do your fans want to watch the games.
Yeah.
That's how you get fans to come to games.
Yeah.
And the longer they don't know what's happening, the more confusing it becomes. The more confusing it becomes, the tougher it is for them to find you on opening day.
Yeah. Yeah. I think honestly, nothing frustrates a fan base more than having a difficult time watching their team. Like especially if the team itself can
Mhm.
shoulder a portion of the blame.
Yeah.
Like in order for it not to negatively affect the franchise, and I still think even when the team doesn't have control over it,
Mhm.
that it has a negative impact on the franchise overall. But when
Mhm.
you know that they do shoulder some of the blame for being in the
Yeah.
situation and it being as hard as it is, like it drives a wedge between a fan base and a franchise very easily
Mhm.
when their product that they're providing is extremely inaccessible other than just showing up to the ballpark.
Right. I think that Brian was very candid and said, "Look, we this is kind of again this is going back old school, right? You get to watch TV, you get to watch a package of games that you are an over-the-air broadcast. It's free. You don't
Hmm.
have to pay for it. You can watch it. You know when it's going to be on. You know when they're going to be on the other situations, right? The other outlets. Um, you know who the announcers are going to be. You know who, all of that stuff. Okay, you get the comfort level is there. Um, but what concerns me is that they're looking for something that isn't going to happen.
Hmm.
There isn't another, Main Street who was the parent to FanDuel. There isn't an Apple or an Amazon that's out there that's going to pick up those games because frankly they want a bite of the big apple, the whole package. So why would you not just sign with the Major League Baseball, get that underway, and begin the process of finding partners to join? And that would be I would put out a press release February 1st saying Braves TV will be you will be able to stream it on Braves.tv. We are at this very moment working on the amount of games. We will have a game available for you to watch somewhere um, the second week of March, or pick a date, right?
Hmm.
And we're going to do some spring training games, and we're going to get you ready for the opening of the season. Each year, I mean, that's when the Super Bowl is over. Each year, that becomes kind of the thing that we all, if we're a baseball fan, we know. If you're a Red Sox fan, you turn on Nesson. I can get my package together for Nesson. I'll be able to watch all the games.
Hmm.
A lot of times, I'll get to be able to watch a lot of spring training games.
Yeah.
So I'll get to see what's going on. So you're comfortable in you knowing where you're going to be able to find your team. If on the other hand, they're still trying to figure out, well, maybe they can reconfigure this FanDuel thing, which is what FanDuel is saying that they can. I shouldn't say FanDuel. Main Street is trying to coerce them into saying, well, look, we might be able to do this. Well, yeah, you might be able to do it, but you haven't paid me any money, so what the hell am I? Where's the trust?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, why are
You.
you arguing with somebody, or just negotiating with somebody? You're not going to negotiate up from the MLB. They're going to tell
Mhm.
you, look, guys, it's either you want to come with us, we want you, but if you go another way, I'm sorry, that's your choice, not mine.
Yeah. And that would also raise the question of why are you tripling back to a company that's been bankrupt twice? They failed twice before. They have not paid you. What upside do you have, and why would you trust what they're telling you?
Yeah, I mean, it's and of the group of those teams, of all the regionals, the
Hmm.
Braves were getting the most money.
Yeah.
Okay, and rightfully so. Okay,
Yeah.
I say that rightfully so because the Braves had a massive network,
Hmm.
of stations throughout the South. They had like 4 or 5 southern states.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
The way, like, when you look at the map geographically,
mhm,
in terms of the teams that people can root for baseball wise in the
right.
South,
Mhm.
is you've got Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina, arguably North Carolina as well, over into Mississippi. Like those are all states where Atlanta is really probably your closest team regionally.
You can go to Pensacola.
Yeah.
Pensacola is actually there. Mobile, Pensacola is a Braves market.
Yeah. And so these are like it has an expansive reach. Like, is Atlanta or Georgia itself one of the largest markets in baseball? No. But the Braves fan base, I think, as a whole, in terms of at least geographically, like
Mhm.
how far it reaches, it probably is one of the top markets in baseball in terms of fan base.
Right, and you know, give him credit or don't give him credit. That's all on Ted Turner.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You know,
Like that's
Ted Turner
he
created
made them the team of the '90s
he
and everything.
created he created TBS. He created a national team. There are
Hmm.
people who have never been to Atlanta in their life in in places like Oregon who are Braves fans.
Yep.
Okay, why? Because the only place they can watch baseball on a regular basis, because they didn't have a team in Oregon, was
Hmm.
the Atlanta Braves.
Yep.
And in some cases the Cubs, because the Cubs had a superstation at the time. Not
Yep.
as WGN was on a lot of cable out there at that point, but Turner was on much more cable.
Yeah.
And I've seen Atlanta caps in places where I wouldn't have never believed that there was Atlanta fans.
Hmm.
But they're there. And so they dictated and got um, the most money. That's appreciated. But now, they're talking about, well, we're going to be in the same boat as the other teams. Well, yeah, you are for a year and a half. Okay,
Hmm.
in 2028, if you allow Manfred to do the job, he's going to get the money. He's going to claw some of that money back. Is it going to be the 100% total of what you thought you were going to get?
No.
Probably not. But I think I'd rather bet on baseball's infrastructure and the league's bargaining power versus me starting something on my own.
Yeah, because when you look at the health of baseball and specifically the MLB as a league, right now I think baseball's in a really good spot. I feel like
Mhm.
it's as popular as it's ever been, arguably more popular than it's ever been over its lifespan, and it's in a spot where they've made some good changes. Obviously, you have the impending lockout, but that's something that's as of right now, it's pure hypothetical. Like we all think it's coming, we all can believe it's coming, but until it actually comes, it's merely a theory and an idea.
Right.
Um, so the way where baseball is right now, and assuming that they were to navigate the lockout successfully, that you're
Mhm.
probably coming out on the backside of still a really strong baseball market in
Mhm.
terms of what consumers want to see. And you see that through the changes that they've made in terms of the pitch clock and some of
Mhm.
the, like the starting a runner on second and extra
Mhm.
innings in the regular
Right.
season, pace of play stuff that has impacted the game
Mhm.
positively.
And the bigger bases.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I were in the position now, I would be talking to the Reds and some of the other teams and say, look, we know, I mean, how much money are we going to make this year, right? Baseball's giving us X amount of dollars.
Hmm.
We have a chance. Let's put, instead of putting 15 or 20 games on, let's put 60 or 80 games on free television.
Hmm.
And the rest goes on, the cable aspect. and let's win some fan, you know, loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2028, when we get there, if we get there, we can ratchet whatever down, but we're going to keep X amount of games, whatever that X may be. It may be 35, it may be 40, it may be 25, whatever. Okay. Keep that on free TV so that fans can look and at least once a week see our team and see what's going on and make them all home games so that they can see us when we're playing at the ballpark. It's marketing, and by the way, not everybody who watches them on Peachtree TV for free are going to be able to get to Atlanta to get to the game.
Yeah. And but there is also the like because I know that some of the smaller ones, because I believe like Pittsburgh's one of the markets that's affected by this. You mentioned Cincinnati;
Yeah,
they're not known for their owners really being very forthcoming with their money in terms of spending on a roster.
right.
So how greedy, how much do these owners want in terms of putting games out there for free, or do they want every last dime they can get out of these media deals?
Well, my point is, Major League Baseball is not going to pay you any more money if you put all of them on free TV.
Yeah.
Okay, because if you do that, right, the problem that Major League Baseball had with putting all of the games on MLB TV and then having blackouts was they were getting pushback from the regional sports networks who were in those areas. So let's say if I wanted to buy the MLB TV package, and I've had it every year since it began,
Mm-hmm.
um, but living in the Baltimore, Washington area, they black out the Orioles and the Nationals.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that that's nuts. I mean, I get to see all the other teams. I don't get to see the teams that literally I'm 20 minutes away from the ballpark. Okay.
Yeah.
So the league is going, well, let's put together a package where you can see all of it, which is like the NFL has their package, the
Yeah.
NBA has their package. They all have local rights except for when these regionals get in the way. If you do have, right, if you do have on the air, over the air broadcast, that, and you're no longer with a regional, then that blackout goes. So you can put those games, you can go and buy an MLB TV package for all, because you want to watch the Red Sox in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, the Braves happen to be on there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's
that to me, that's a no-brainer.
yeah. The
So if
blackouts
you're not
are
going to
what
make any, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say. The blackouts are what pisses everybody off.
Yeah, it did me. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm spending this money. I want to see baseball. It would be nice to see the teams that are literally in my backyard.
Yeah. I mean, people have asked me before. They're like, we live here. Why did I pay for MLB TV, and why can I not access the team that
Right.
I live next to? Like, I'm right
Right.
here. Why is this the one that's blacked out? It's obviously the one that I'm going to want to see.
Right.
So that drives I think your average MLB customer more insane than anything else going on in the sport.
You want to hear something funny? You know who airs the most over-the-air free baseball and offers it to their fans also via a streaming a free streaming deal?
I would say probably the Dodgers,
Yankees.
the Yankees.
The Yankees have been on WPIX television since 1956, and they have never. It's a Steinbrenner thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Steinbrenners, when they took over, they stayed with picks. Hal Steinbrenner is following what his father had done, and that was, I want to make certain that at least once a week, Yankee fans in New York and around the tri-state area
Mm-hmm.
get to see the team.
Yeah.
And they do that. They also have a deal with Amazon. Amazon if you live in the Amazon area, they make it free. So there's, give or take, approximately 2 games a week that on free TV that you'll get to see the Yankees.
Yeah.
And and that's the way it works. Everybody else has, you know, smaller packages on, but that's because of the regionals. The regionals wanted to, maximize the amount of money that they were getting, and the only way they could do that was to make it the only way you can watch them is on watch them on, on the regional cable network.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
And
and I'm sure fans, did not like that.
no, they don't. They just don't. Like there's no, because it doesn't, like when people pull this up, um yeah, when people talk about this, like it's always they can't, like there's no, when you just talk to a regular person about baseball and like they have encountered the blackout and they ask about the blackout, like it just doesn't they see no reason as to why it is the way it is.
Mhm.
Obviously it's so those those local sports networks get their money's worth, but they don't see it as such. They see it as, I live in this area, I pay for this service, whether
Mhm.
that be MLB TV, I deserve to watch the team that I'm closest to. But
Mhm.
it doesn't, sadly, the media rights don't work out that way, or at least they haven't in the
Yeah.
past.
Now, Josh, you had a quick note. You said that there's no reason anymore to black out local games. We agree with you on that. The Yankees still built value on the point. Um, yeah, I mean, if it's it's a situation where they regional sports networks, of which I spent a great deal of my life working with them. Um, when we first started the projects out, we had partnership deals with television stations where we would air certain games on there. Certain,
Hmm.
we'd have like, when I was in Houston, it was when we played, um, Texas, or we played, you know some teams that had interest to Astro fans,
Yeah.
um, would be on free TV. Maybe what we would do is we would do free TV on Friday night. Saturday was a blackout day because NBC at that time had the the day time right. So if it was a day game, we couldn't do it. But most of the time, Houston played night games, so that was fair. So we could do Monday. I'm sorry, Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we could do a weekend. The entire weekend was all free. We would do special, like opening day was always on broadcast. Um,
Hmm.
4th of July, or um, any type of holiday during that period, that summertime, we always did a game on live, on
Yeah.
free TV, and the rest of the games were on the regionals. Um, the teams and the networks got more and more inbred with cable, and cable subscribers, the cable companies, were complicit in this, because they wanted you to buy cable.
Hmm.
So if I'm giving you a package of games, then why am I paying you for, the whole, 162 games?
Hmm.
So, the complicit was the cable companies drawing back on the amount of games that, they would allow you to put on TV. Now, when I say allow you, it still is up to the team. It really is still up to the team. If
Hmm.
they feel, if they feel that they want to do it, the cable companies, you can argue, well, look, like we talking about Peachtree TV. I don't know where you live in it, in relativity to Atlanta, but
Hmm.
I'm guessing that you cannot put a set of rabbit ears up in your in your home and get channel 17 from where you are.
No, no, I
But
think you
you can
agree.
get it on your cable, I'm
Hmm.
assuming.
Yeah.
So you can make the case that, all right, who am I blacking out here? I'm only blacking out the city of Atlanta. And if you want to go, all right, fine, we'll take Cobb County, we'll take Fulton County, and then everybody else, you're still going to watch it. So you can make that argument. Um, but cable companies choose not to pay attention to that argument, and again, teams, for whatever reason, make that choice.
Hmm.
And so I think we're going to see. I hope we're going to see a totally different dynamic where we get to see games on free TV, and that hybrid situation where we could also, if we're if we're if we buy the you want to buy the local package, you can buy the local package. It can be included in your MLB network TV package. So if all you want to do is buy Braves games, you can do that. If you want to buy the entire package, and they'll be included in that. But
Yeah.
the only way that works is if you're with the league, and
Yeah.
that's why I can't at this point in time. The 9 teams that have broken away from Main Street, which was the FanDuel network, and the Nationals, who broke away from Masson. The Nationals were the first ones to sign when they left Masson to sign with MLB TV. The rest of the 9 teams have yet to sign, and we are, 2 days away from, or 3 days away from the 1st of February.
Yeah. And this is an opportunity for sports, and particularly sports media, like in terms of the broadcasting of games,
Mm-hmm.
and what is something that has gone away from the consumer's best interest seemingly year over year, because now you've got to sign up for 8,000 streaming services to be able to watch every game because they're
Mm-hmm.
across 8 different platforms. Um, while it's really trended away from being friendly to the consumer, this is one of the rare chances to have a consumer friendly type deal.
That's yeah, there, Josh. That's a good point. You can use there's a number of things you can do. You can buy an IPTV service um, for $80 a year and get every game. You know, Dodgers, Angels, Padres, and everybody else. You can do that. You can also buy a VPN, which is a virtual private network. Say they can't geo target where you are. There are ways to get around it. The average consumer doesn't particularly know it and doesn't really do much in the way of homework to find that out. Um, but but your point is a valid point. There are ways to get around it,
Yeah.
and the league, MLB realizes that.
Yeah.
So basically they're saying, why not come with us because we can get you more money in the long run, and at the end of the day, our fans around the country get to see every game, and you get to see your local team in that same package. Because if I can buy that package and my local teams are in it, then I'm more likely to buy it.
Yeah.
If I'm just
Absolutely.
Joe fan.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, that brings us to a close here on Thursday. Tomorrow we'll talk a little bit more about getting ready for the Super Bowl, and then we got a nothing but Super Bowl week. Now remember, tomorrow it's Friday, so it's a noon kickoff for us here, and
Hmm.
we'll be back for that. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, I got one going back to football, and it
Okay.
and it pertains to the Cleveland Browns hired Todd Monken as their head coach yesterday.
Oh,
Um,
really?
but what I'm it's not as much about that. It's more
I'm
about there was
happy
a
for
comment,
him.
yeah, it was a comment made about from Emmanuel Acho, um, where he essentially just completely discredited Todd Monken, said that Shador Sanders shouldn't listen to Todd Monken's coaching because Todd Monken hasn't been quote unquote successful in the NFL. He said, quote, because he's not coming in with Super Bowl rings, what has this guy done in the NFL, basically, was Acho's form of thinking. And to the same creditor aspect, you would wonder what Emmanuel Acho's done to get into sports media the way that he has and the platform that he has. He was a solid player at Texas, but he was dog shit in the NFL. Where does he get off telling people who to and not to listen to? Talk about a cancerous environment and a reason that you flame out in the NFL. A mentality like that'll do it to you.
Well, in fairness to Monken, or if anybody wants to ask Monken, give anybody wants to talk to Todd Monken about, talk to. If anyone wants to get the lowdown on whether Todd Monken can coach in the league, I would strongly suggest you pick up the phone and call Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Lamar Jackson and Todd Monken got along very well.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with, he has 2 national championship rings at 2, I believe, right? At Georgia.
Yep. Yeah, those were discredited in Emmanuel Acho's statements as well.
Well, obviously he's an idiot.
Yeah.
Because anybody who says that Todd Monken doesn't deserve that job
Mm-hmm.
or isn't going to help, and God knows if there's anybody who needs help, it's Sador Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's anybody who can help him, it's Todd Monken, because Todd has seen both sides. He understands the NFL. He understands college. He can take what was taught to Sador out in out in Colorado and figure out what to do to make him better in the National Football League.
Yeah.
Let me just say this, and I'm sorry, and I'll shut up and let you talk. Lamar Jackson said that that Todd Monken made him a better passer.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have to. I mean, he didn't have to throw flowers in Todd's way, and not that Todd needed it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even brought up. It was, he came to a press conference afterwards. They talked to him about, he hit a really, he was on the run and hit a pass that, was amazing. It was like he threw the ball in the air 50 plus yards,
Mm-hmm.
and he hit the wide open guy. That is not an easy sort of make if you're standing, let alone running and throwing.
Yeah.
And after they talked to him, they said, well, that was a hell of a pass. He goes, well, thank Todd Monken, because he's the one that taught me how to do it.
Yeah.
So, again, anybody who makes comments like that about some of these guys, it's just, I saw some junk online about Eric Bieniemy going back to Kansas City. Eric Bieniemy helped make Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Okay. He ran the offense. He wanted desperately, more than anything, to get a head coaching job. He thought he was going to get him a couple of times. He moved to places where he did the offensive coordinating routine, and it didn't work out for him because the coach got fired. And then they took it out on him too. He went out to UCLA and tried that for a little while, and that was not going. But that was not. He was set up not to he was set up to fail at UCLA, as were many coaches at that point. So, I'm just happy to see Eric back, and I'm happy to see him back with Andy Reid.
Yeah.
He knows the business, and sometimes these guys that have worked hard and worked as coordinators for so many years and finally get the recognition that they deserve, like a Todd Monken. I don't like to see people pile on when they haven't even seen. He hasn't coached one game as a head coach at Cleveland.
No,
You're already discounting the fact that he can do it.
Yeah.
I don't know what gives this guy that kind of insight, but clearly he has not read anything about Todd Monken, or for that matter, the fact that John Harbaugh was very, desperately attempting to get him to become the offensive coordinator with Jackson Dart for the Giants.
Yeah. And so I did pull up the exact quote, and the exact quote from Emmanuel Acho is, "If I'm Shador, why am I listening to Todd Monken? What have you won on an NFL level?" That's fair, but you also look at this guy, and let's look at a full body of work as to what Emmanuel Acho is here. He was on 2 really good Texas teams, one that made the national title in 2010. He was not a primary contributor on either of those 2 teams. His junior and senior years, when he finally became a contributor, were two of Mac Brown's worst at Texas. He was 5-7 and 8-5 in the 2 years that Emmanuel Acho was main contributor. All right, well, maybe he went on to the NFL. Emmanuel Acho was a 6th-round pick in 2012 by the Cleveland Browns. He was then on the Philadelphia Eagles practice squad and the New York Giants practice squad in 2013. And he was officially rostered by the Eagles from 2013 to 2015 and tallied 22 total tackles in the NFL. Not a very illustrious career. So you get over to the media side. He got into media. He started at ESPN. Then he went to Fox. And then, he couldn't get out of his own way at Fox. And his media career's gone down since then. So you may wonder if this isn't a guy who's just doing this stuff for clicks.
Well, I mean, he's throwing darts.
Yep.
That's
in fairness to him, this one worked. It hit. Like it did a lot of impressions, got a lot of comments. It placates to the Shedeur Sanders, cult that is currently active online. And so, credit to him. He found a groove.
Yeah, if he wanted clickbait, he got his clickbait.
Yeah, precisely.
And but at the same time, what it does prove is the fact that he doesn't understand professional football.
Yep.
Let me ask, you could say the same thing about Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels won Super Bowl rings, but it wasn't the head coach.
Nope. Yeah. What
Eric Bieniemy's won Super Bowl rings, and he hasn't.
Yeah, and these guys, like Eric Bieniemy himself, didn't get a head coaching job ever. Josh McDaniels did get a head coaching job,
Right.
but he was bad. Like
Eric's was in. To be honest, to be fair, he was in UCLA, but it was only for a series. It wasn't. I don't think he finished. I think he finished the season, but he was brought in at a last minute. They had hired a guy, and I can't remember who they had hired, but the guy's background check didn't work, and so Bieniemy and the background check, by the way, didn't work, not because there was anything bad that he did, but UCLA requires all their coaches to have at least a master's degree, and he didn't have it. So it wasn't that the guy they were going to hire was had done anything wrong. He just did not qualify under UCLA's academic situation to be a coach. Bieniemy was brought in at the last minute to coach that team. You can't really call that fair to Eric.
No.
What it is, what it was. Hang on, we have one more note here from Josh. Salesmen think short-term, businessmen and women think long-term. Good clickbait hurts you in the long term, building trust. I couldn't agree with you more, Josh.
Yep. Absolutely. It's a disingenuous argument from Emmanuel Acho.
And when Shedeur Sanders becomes a solid quarterback in the league, it will probably be because of Todd Monken.
If he does, yes.
Yeah. I'm being optimistic for both Todd and for Shedeur. In that case. All right, guys. Well, we will be back tomorrow. We will not bring Mr. Ocho with us, but unless he says something even stupider.
It's possible.
I'm sorry?
I said it's always possible.
Indeed. Yeah, it seems that way. Hey, thanks, guys, for dropping by and asking questions. We really appreciate it. Come on back tomorrow about lunchtime, and we'll have some more fun. Okay? All right. Until then, take care. For Matt, I'm Jim. Take